Hello everyone, I'm John Higgins. Welcome to John Higgins Film Review, and I'm delighted to welcome one and all to this interview special with Christian Wehrle, a German filmmaker who has got two great new underwater documentaries, World War II, The Shipwrecks of Truk Lagoon, and Red Sea Brother Island, a scuba dive adventure, which look at fascinating locations in the Pacific and also in Egypt. So Christian, a warm welcome to you.
Thank you very much, John. Hi, thanks to be here.
Okay, so watched these documentaries the other day. I thought they were really interesting and fascinating. I mean, both of them have their own virtues and stuff. So I've got to start off with, why did you pick these two locations for your documentary subjects?
It's not one by one. I didn't pick one and then the other. It's the Red Sea Brother Islands. I actually was just doing a liveaboard trip and had a new underwater housing, which I wanted to check out with my camera. And when I was on this trip and I started filming and I was on the boat, and every time after the dive, you just go back and review your material. I was looking at this and I was like, wow. I mean, this was a spot where you really saw there was so many. I mean, I've been diving since I'm 14, so I've seen not everything, but a lot. And this was just amazing. It was just so many different types of sharks and pristine corals and things you really rarely see. So this was the point when I said, okay, I have to go back. I have to do a documentary about the Brother Islands. So this is for the Red Sea. And the other one is a diver's dream, which was at least my diver's dream for over 10, 15 years before I managed to have the opportunity and the money to go there, which was one of the greatest shipwreck diving spots in the world, which is Truk Lagoon. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that's what I want to talk about next, because Truk Lagoon, I mean, fascinating history. I mean, we all know about Pearl Harbor. I mean, obviously the significance of it in terms of the Japanese initiative to sort of, after what happened on December the 7th, 1941. I mean, we do see some brief stock footage of some of the tragedies of what happened. It sort of feels like this is not real. This is not Michael Bay. So I just wanted to know, how aware were you of the history of the place, given the context of the Japanese initiative during World War II?
Where I was, it's in the middle of the Pacific. Truk Lagoon was it's in the middle of the Pacific, Micronesia, and it used to be the Japanese naval base in the Second World War, where they started or planned their attacks, like on Pearl Harbor. And obviously when the US found out, and they did investigate where that actually came from, and they found out it was from Truk Lagoon, and they had this military attack to this naval base, and they got them by surprise, and they sank over 70 ships within 2 days, and which was all in the lagoon. They were all anchored. They were just about, when the attack happened, to start, obviously, to leave. So they were all very close. So you have 70 shipwrecks full of tanks, of mines, of like stacked with everything you would have in a war. And this is all there. It's still there to see when you're diving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously, let's talk a little bit about the duration. I mean, how long did it take to make these documentaries overall? I mean, how long did each one take? And in terms of the logistics of going to each location, because the funny thing is the actual Red Sea one, at the very end of it, you say the next documentary is Truk Island. So just tell us a bit about your period of process.
The thing is that I am financing and doing these documentaries by myself. There's no big money behind it, like from companies, where I could just work on this and finish it very easily. So this is why it took a bit longer than if you would just do it by a contract and have it done in a year or half a year. What happened for Red Sea was, like I said, I did this liveaboard trip. They didn't last for 1 week. And then I did this one trip, and I had a lot of footage, but obviously it's not enough. And then I went back 3 times all together. So it was 4 trips, but in between it was editing, it was getting my voiceovers and the ideas straight. So it took almost 2 years for me to finish it.
Mm.
And Truk Lagoon was even longer because after the initial trip, there was some issues with sound when I had interviews, and that took very, very long. So it was more than 5 years to finish Truk Lagoon, to be honest.
And so it was just yourself? Did you have anybody else helping you out?
No, I have it like filming wise, I really like the one-man show with the camera. And underwater, if you do documentaries, it doesn't. I mean, I've done a lot of like Hollywood movies as a video assist or as a DP sometimes, not much, but I've done a lot of these international features where you'd obviously have a very, very big crew. For documentaries, especially when you do them yourself or you like focus on something, it doesn't really help to have 20 people showing up. Makes things more complicated in one way. And then for diving, like for animals or for this, I mean, obviously it'd be great if I have like 10 people being with a camera in the water. But I can't afford that, and I like to do the fun stuff myself. So no, it's really just me and my camera, and I have a dive buddy. I've been diving for very, very long, so he's the one in front of the camera and knowing where to put the lights or to help out and like tell other people like we don't know where to be. But this is really it, yeah.
That's the thing that was fascinating, because the thing is it's so impressive. I mean, it's up there like watching Blue Planet or one of these official BBC documentaries. So full marks to you. I've got to talk a little bit about the interaction with the fish. I mean, they had the Napoleon fish and they had the sharks. I mean, obviously, you know, we have legendary stories of Steven Spielberg shooting on water in 1974 when he was doing that. Of course, that was a shark that was not working and stuff, but you were working with the real thing. And we do, you know, we learn a bit about the fact you've got a hammerhead and there's a white tip and there's a few others. So how dangerous was it being around these sharks?
It's really not at all when you are in the real thing, like in the real nature, like Steven Spielberg would be. I mean, I think he said himself that he was doing this to get over his anxiety about sharks. So it's more of a dream thing, right? It's a Hollywood thing, and it's not about real animals. And honestly, when I was there at the Brother Islands, it's a place you go to as a diver to actually see the real thing, the real sharks. And I wasn't that prepared or like looking for it, to be honest. I was just about to go for really beautiful dive spots. And the first thing you encounter when you have a fish being bigger than you, swimming at you, and you know this guy is the predator, right? It's impressive. And the funny thing is that when you are a diver and you observe the surround, like you observe what is around you, everything is about eat or be eaten. So everything is about who's the stronger, who's the predator, and it's just one thing. It's tough to see, but we are as divers with our fins on. We are over 2 meters long. We are wide, and so the fish around you have a respect for you because you are in the water. They don't know you're just in the water for a minute, or you wouldn't. You compete with the sharks, obviously, but they don't know this. So there is a respect from the animals you actually have in the beginning, and as long as you don't jerk around or like scream, or just you're gonna be calm and you just move slowly, they will respect you. They swim beside you, and like you see in the documentary of the Red Sea, what happened was they come closer. Obviously, they have the distance in the beginning because they are cautious, and they come closer. They come closer, and there was a point where we were like, I want to get out of the water because they really come closer. But it wasn't at one point. I mean, oceanic whitetip are, I think, the most. Not, it's not even the great whites. It really is the oceanic whitetip sharks, which are the most listed species when it comes to fatalities, because they are curious, coming closer, coming closer. Most of the time, they were lured with blood or something you shouldn't do anyways. But yeah, so you have to be always careful. But it's not that it's dangerous per se. I would say.
One thing that was touched on in the documentary was by our little Chuck Island host, or Chuck, as you know, CHU. He explained that. He was talking about the environmental issues and the fact that there's a major concern. I think it was oil. I think it was that they were talking about, and the fact that one day this thing might crack open and then cause a major issue. So, could you tell us a bit about the fact that, what's happening with that at the moment? I mean, are you aware that they've got experts down there to assess the area and to see what's happening?
Unfortunately, yet no. The thing really is, these ships have been sank over 6 years ago, and you don't know. They still don't know how many oil tankers. I mean, the oil tankers that were probably full. You don't know, and we don't know how much oil went out over the year. If it's just like little drops all the time, and they might get away with it, or there might be a sudden eruption on a wreck or two, and they really have a major impact, like ecological impact by this oil on these islands. They don't know yet, and no one has come yet, and they're trying to get experts. I'm sure it's not easy. Yeah, so just can hope that it's drops.
I've got a technical question. We touched on it briefly there. Just tell us about the logistics of filming underwater. I mean, did you have, like, because I think you mentioned you had one person to do lights and stuff. So tell us about the kit that you had. What was the camera you used? I mean, when you're sort of, obviously it comes across incredible. The footage is great, but I'm just curious now, how did you, obviously you seem very experienced in what you're doing. So tell us a bit about, in terms of the lighting logistics. This is more for the filmmakers out there, and perhaps give us a few pointers on, if somebody wants to film underwater going forward, what must they do, and what are the key red flags to keep an eye out for?
For underwater, there's two different approaches, actually. There's not lights only, because light is very, very limited, to be honest. It's the same like if you would set up a lighting system on land. You would have your lights, and you see how bigger Hollywood gets, the bigger the lights are to flood a scene, right? It's going to be, if you want to light a scene which is 20 meters or longer, you need big lights. And underwater, the density is it's way bigger, so you would need way more lights. So there's no way for me as just one guy with a camera and a housing and two lights on top of this camera to flood a scene which is 5 or 10 meters away. So I can light anything which is close to me, like some meters, depending on if it's dark and in a wreck, it's a bit more helpful. You can do a bit more, but basically it's or you would have some people who actually could point a light at a certain point further away. But this is limited. And then there's the other option, which for the Red Sea I use most of the time, which is a filter, because you would have on the daytime a very beautiful and strong Egyptian sun. And what you would need is a red filter to be sure you have the colors back, which works it works very well if you are not too deep. The deeper you go, the more the spectrum of light takes, like the water takes away the colors, right? So the first thing which gets taken away is red. After 5 meters of depth, there is no red anymore. So you would need this filter to get it back. But even if you go 20 meters, it's not going to be there anymore. Which is like diving wise, if you cut yourself as a diver in 20 meters of depth and you would bleed and you look at your finger, it looks like you're an alien because you're going to bleed green. You're not going to bleed red unless you put a light on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating, because I just found that, it's a testament that, you create these wonderful vistas. I mean, the bubbles in one of the things, it was just a beautiful thing with the divers all coming back up. And then you had that delicious feast at the end of it, which I thought was quite cool. Obviously, these are just two documentaries. I mean, what are you planning more? I mean, where are you going to go next? And are we going to see what sort of is got your attention for the next ones?
I have several things on the table, and I'm jumping a bit in between. I have like a sequel to World War II, The Shipwrecks of Truk Lagoon, which will be World War II, The Shipwrecks of Ireland. Marlin Head, which is even crazier in a shipwrecks point of way. Like there's one ship, and you have like 60 domino little stones, which are all huge tanks. And it's even harder to film because it's the environment, like the ocean in Ireland is really, really tough. And I was there last year, and I have to be honest, I screwed up. There was too much on focus, and I go back in 2 weeks. I'm going to be back. I'm prepped, and I hope I will do much better, but we'll see. Then I did in March a trip to the Blue Hole in Egypt, again Egypt, which is now, I think it's very common for this. Was a fatality of a very famous freediver, or a freediving the protagonist, like, and no, sorry, he was helping a little his girlfriend, I think. She was a freediver, and she wanted to go through this blue hole, and she got lost a little, and he helped her out, but in the end it was a very close thing about life and death, and he managed to get her out alive, but he died in the end. And there's been so many. It's like the most it's like the world famous place of like how many people have dived and died this. It's incredible, and I was really curious, why is that? Because it's very looking like a very safe and very beautiful dive spot. And so I portrayed with it. I was portraying this and went down to even 120 meters. There's some remains even left, and of divers you don't know who is there and why. And so Blue Hole, the Call of the Abyss is one, and I have another one about technical diving, since I'm diving since I'm 14, and I'm very into this technical aspects, and about actually telling people what physics and what technology there is. And so there's this one, Beyond the Bubble, and documentary I'm doing. And another one for flooded mines and caves, which is called Hidden Worlds.
Okay.
So I have a lot on the table.
Yes, you do. I mean, I want to touch on your the big game, the big boy moment, because obviously I understand that you are a specialist in video playback, streaming, and wireless camera setups on films like The Matrix and Inglorious Bastards. Now, obviously, I've got to ask about your working relationship with the Warshowskis and Quentin Tarantino. Obviously, let's talk about this, because Tarantino seems to be this encyclopedia, and he's going to make 10 films and retire. So tell us a bit about how did you come to work with these people, and what are they like working with? What's their technique, and did you learn anything from them that you can use as part of your own development as a filmmaker?
Oh yes, I learned a lot. I was very lucky to I wanted to be in the film industry, and this is why I moved to Berlin 2000, so it's some years ago. And one thing it wasn't planned to do video assists, but it just happened to be the position I was offered, and I was doing very well in it. And I was very well in it because I was using VCRs and everything at that time before, so I knew a little bit about this. And I was asked for, it was a German movie. There was Donald Pleasence in it, and it was a very small movie, like not a very big Hollywood movie, called Baltic Sea. And this company, these guys loved me, and 3 months later, I was doing in Germany with Jackie Chan, Around the World in 80 Days. And at that time in Germany, there was no video playback. There was no professional video playback. I mean, there was only people who never have done this before, and so I was lucky to be there at that time. And so every year I had like 2 or 3 movies which I was doing in Babelsberg. And at the beginning, Babelsberg was not, or Berlin was not a place you'd be promoting as a city like Germany. Berlin, that wasn't famous, or it wasn't that en vogue. Like Born was shot here, and it was more it's going to be Russia, or we were shooting with Kevin Spacey, Beyond the Sea. We had some streets in Brandenburg, and they were like Italy, but it wasn't Berlin. But anyways, I was doing this video playback in the studios and on locations everywhere, and all these great filmmakers came, and obviously you see Eduardo Serra, like the DPs coming, and the directors coming. And yes, I was lucky because as a video assist, you sit close to the director, you hear everything they say, what they do at the moment, and the DPs. And that helped a lot. That I learned a lot. And the Warshowskis came 2005, I think, the first time for V for Vendetta, and it was with James McTeague, who was doing the directing. Because he used to be the first AD at MATRIX, the original MATRIX. And I think this was his first, like with the Warshowskis, the first or the second movie. And the thing is, I love these guys. Who would not love these guys? Because they're really great. They're really nice to work with. They're really children in a way, and having fun on set. And I just loved them. And we got very good along. And so they kept booking me for the next movie. They came back to Berlin. Lana lives now in Berlin, and I was lucky. They asked me for most of the shows they were doing. I was Sense8 was traveling was one of the greatest experiences I think you can make as a crew member to be there. And MATRIX was huge. I mean, it was in the pandemic, which was another story. But it was really great working with them and being there with them, and it was real pleasure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what about Quentin Tarantino? Tell us a bit about your experience working on Inglourious Bastards.
For Quentin, I have to say I only worked there for a little time because Quentin doesn't like. He's shooting on film, right? He's not shooting digital, and he's not really fond of playback because he doesn't like people in front of his monitors or in front of monitors. He wants to be people on focus. And I was getting the call, "Hey Christian," from a German UPM. Christian, can you be like when can you be in Babelsberg? Like they were shooting already, and I was like, getting my gear, 3 hours. So okay, I was in Babelsberg for 3 hours, and they booked me because of this famous scene where they playing the card game, and then there's this shootout, and the shootout was on 120 frames or like 100 frames or high speed, and this high speed you cannot play back in the camera because it was film cameras. So this is why they asked for video playback at that time, and I was there for a week, and Quentin was great. Like the crew was great, and they were really focused. And like I said, he wasn't in front of the monitors. Like the Warshowskis, for instance, there used to be two of them. So it used to be one person being on set and the other one in front of the monitors. So you are close to the actors, and the other person would be close to the monitors, so you see what's going on. If you're only one director, like Quentin is, most of them either they stay on the monitors and they would lose what the actors are doing, or you're not going to be too close to them. And most of them, like Quentin, would choose, no, I'm not going to be at the monitors, I'm going to be at the real life. So I saw him for the playbacks, and we had some, not many dialogue. And but it was obviously a great thing to be there. Yeah. That's one thing I'll keep in mind forever.
I've got two final questions because we're going to wrap up in a minute because first of all, what made an impression on you in these documentaries? What were the big things that kind of blew you away?
On my two documentaries, you mean?
Yeah, the two, like, when you went to Truk Island and when you went to the Red Sea, what were the things that you discovered that kind of like made such a, we all go and visit places and you think, wow, what was the wow factor in these documentaries for you?
On the Red Sea, it was you're so remote out. You're like in the middle of absolutely nothing, and you're on the boat. You drive there for 12 hours, and it's just two little stone rocks of islands, and there's absolutely nothing there. And you'd be like, why the hell am I here? You put your head below the water, and you're like, this is the most incredible thing you've ever seen. So it's like this change, which is great about diving, that like as soon as you put your head below the water, you see a total different world. And this rocked for me on like the Red Sea, on Brother Islands. for truck, I mean, I knew what was coming, but having the island, like when we're actually traveling on the island on truck, and you see all these like these car wrecks, which you see as well, like the modern day car wrecks, and on the next 2 hours you go diving and you have these wrecks. It was it's a different world above and below the water. And I was surprised that you see all these bunkers and all this, like all the remains of the military is still there. It really looks like, now it's old, but you might most people might still know Lost, like on the island where you are totally in the jungle and you have these relics, and this is really it. This is it's all there. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm. So my final question is obviously, what are you most proud of about these documentaries?
I have to say, am I proud? I'm not even sure if I'm like proud. I'm happy I've done them and I love seeing them. What am I proud of these documentaries? I'm very happy to be able to show people my passion of diving and about what there is underwater. You can see even if you're not a diver at all, because I showed this documentaries like friends. A friend of mine who's a documentary filmmaker, and she showed it. She watched it with her family, and her 7-year-old daughter, after she watched Truk Lagoon, she was like, I want to be a diver," and this made me really proud.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, Christian Wehrle, thank you so much for your insights today. I mean, I've found what you've talked about excellent. Just wrapping up, World War II, the Shipwrecks of Truk Lagoon and Red Sea Brother Islands, the Scuba Dive Adventure. Where can people see them?
Easiest is Amazon Prime. You can rent or buy them at Amazon Prime. Tubi is in the US and New Zealand, Australia now streaming them. They just opened, I heard, in the UK. I haven't seen them on there yet. They should be at Tubi soon as well. Yeah.
Okay, well, listen, Christian, thanks very much for that plug. And I just want to wish you well with these things. I certainly will be keeping an eye out for your other work. And on that note, okay, so just wrapping up, you can watch a replay of this and other interviews on the YouTube channel, John Higgins Film Review. By all means, subscribe to it, like it. So the more likes I get, the more I like it. And by all means, spread the word. Support Christian, support independent filmmakers. And on that note, Christian, thank you very much. And thank you for watching.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me.